Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into an absolutely fascinating transformation. We're talking about moving from a life of constant grinding burnout to one of true sustainable abundance. We're going to trace the journey of Graham Farrer, a horticultural consultant and permaculture designer. Now, back in 2012, Graham was literally the definition of a runaway train, completely burned out and heading straight for disaster. But fast forward to 2026, he's totally transformed into this balanced, highly effective permaculture designer who actually uses his environment to thrive, not just survive. We're going to unpack exactly how he pulled this off, drawing heavily from Wilf Richards' book, The Power of Permaculture Principles. Trust me, the insights we're about to cover can completely change how you manage your own energy and your projects. All right, let's get right into Section 1, The Runaway Train. I want you to picture Graham back in 2012. He was operating completely without an internal governor, just aggressively ignoring all the vital feedback his life was desperately trying to give him. He wasn't just working hard, he was tuning out the warning signals from his body, his family, and, yeah, even his bank account. He was accelerating down the track like a runaway train heading straight toward a hidden cliff. This right here is exactly how a positive feedback loop of stress functions. And in this context, positive just means compounding. It pushes you faster and faster toward a system collapse you can't even see coming because your vision is completely narrowed by the sheer speed. You're accelerating, but you are absolutely not in control. Let's rapidly click through the steps of this toxic loop. Step 1 is stress. You take on way too much. That inevitably leads to step 2, exhaustion. And when you're operating exhausted, well, you hit step 3, mistakes. And here is the truly cruel irony of this whole loop. How do you fix those mistakes? Step 4, more work, which of course loops you right back around to even more stress. It's crazy. More work leads to exhaustion, causing mistakes, which ironically requires even more work to fix. It's a totally vicious cycle, and if you don't find a way to intervene, the engine is simply going to seize up.
Which brings us to Section 2, the internal governor.
So how do we actually stop this train? Well, it starts with Wilf Richards' core principle. Self-regulation is about discouraging the behaviors that lead to disorder. Think of a mechanical governor arm swinging right in to safely throttle an engine back before it literally explodes. Self-regulation means recognizing that the absolute most important thing you can control is your own response to the world's feedback. It's about being the designer who knows exactly how to step in and stop that momentum before the system completely breaks down. It is the art of identifying that limiting factor you need to trigger a negative or balancing loop and finally halt that runaway train.
Moving on to Section 3, listening to the system.
Now, this brings us to Graham in 2026. He isn't ignoring the warning signs anymore. He actively listens to his environment to manage issues long before they ever become a crisis. See, back in 2012, if a client offered criticism, Graham felt it as this devastating personal failure. But today, he actively listens. Picture him right now, analyzing site data from a drone aerial flight. He's looking at soil erosion or plant health, and he's using that exact data to adjust a land design. He realizes that negative feedback isn't an attack at all. It's a balancing force. It's a vital checking effect that helps him steer his consulting toward far better results. The reality is a system will always speak to you. The question is simply whether or not you're actually willing to listen.
Let's look at Section 4, flipping the feedback loop.
Now, you don't have to be a horticulturalist to use this principle. Let's look at how Graham applies this when he's just sitting at his computer walking through a totally stuck web design project. He looks for the telltale signs of a false start by using the 6 elements of the model of change map. Those are vision, consensus, skills, incentives, resources, and action plan. And I want to challenge you to use these right now. Why is your project dragging? Is it a lack of skills? Is there absolutely no consensus among your team? Are you maybe missing the right resources or a clear action plan? By checking your stuck project against these 6 specific elements, you turn vague frustration into actionable feedback. You become a designer who actually knows how to steer. Finally, Section 5, the ultimate yield. So what happens when you actually practice this? What happens when you place intentional limits on your consumption and your work based entirely on the internal health of your own system? Well, you realize that the ultimate yield is the choice between the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. In 2026, Graham actively chooses the discipline of self-regulation. And yeah, it takes discipline to throttle back. It definitely takes discipline to practice nonviolent communication when you're receiving feedback instead of just getting defensive. But by choosing that discipline, you ensure you're no longer a victim of your own momentum. You ensure your abundance stays stable, balanced, and is actually built to last. I want to end this explainer by asking you a very direct question. What physical ache or bottleneck is your system using to talk to you right now? That physical niggle you've been ignoring all week, or that project bottleneck that's been driving you crazy, isn't just a random annoyance. A physical ache or a project bottleneck is just the system trying to talk to you. It is literally your system screaming for an adjustment. It's the feedback trying to save you from the cliff. So stop, take a breath, listen to what it's telling you about your current pace. That awareness is your ultimate yield. So are you ready to listen to the feedback?